Chapter 12. The race against dawn continues as Emma and Corey face increasingly difficult challenges. Tonight they must draw upon every lesson they've learned to keep the Christmas Express's magic alive. The gentle rocking of the Christmas Express had once been a source of comfort for Emma and Corey, a soothing rhythm that carried them through time and space on their extraordinary journey. But now, as they sat in silence, that same motion seemed to mock them, a constant reminder of the relentless passage of time and the weight of their unfinished mission. Emma gazed out the window, her reflection ghostly pale against the blur of landscapes rushing by. Each scene flickered past faster than the last, lush forests giving way to sprawling cities, only to be replaced by vast deserts and then endless oceans. It was as if the train were flipping through the pages of Earth's history, each image barely registering before vanishing into the ether. "Corey," she said softly, her voice barely audible above the clack of the train's wheels. "Does it seem like we're moving faster to you?" Her brother looked up from a notepad where he'd been furiously scribbling on a piece of paper, dark circles under his eyes betraying his growing fatigue. "It's not just seeming, Em," he replied, his tone clipped and tense. "We are moving faster. The time between ghost encounters is getting shorter." "We're running out of time." Emma felt a knot of dread and worry form in her stomach, growing with each passing moment. She reached down to stroke Pixie's silky ears, finding comfort in the little dog's steady, calming presence. Pixie looked up at her with knowing eyes, a soft whine escaping her throat. "I understand," she said quietly. "I'm worried too." "I've been thinking," Emma began hesitantly, knowing her words might spark another disagreement, "about all the ghosts we've helped so far. The Civil War soldier, the suffragette, the farmer from the Great Depression, the World War II nurse, Dr. Chen and her daughter from the future. Each story has been more complex than the last, more emotionally draining." Corey's pencil stilled, his knuckles white as he gripped it tightly. "What's your point?" he asked, an edge to his voice that made Emma wince. "I'm just worried," she pressed on, determined to voice her concern. "What if the next ghost is even more challenging? What if we can't help them? What happens then? To the ghost? To the timeline? To us?" The pencil in Corey's hand snapped, the sharp crack making them both jump. "We don't have time for what ifs, Emma," he said, his voice rising. "We have a job to do. We can't afford to doubt ourselves now." Emma felt a flash of anger, hot and sudden, raced through her mind and heart. "But we can't just ignore the possibility either, Corey. What if our failure to help a ghost means we can't get home?" Pixie crowded in close, pressing herself against Emma's legs as if trying to offer support. The tension in the train compartment was palpable, a living thing that seemed to suck the air from the room. Corey stood abruptly, prowling restlessly in the confined area. "Of course I thought about it," he snapped. "I've thought about nothing else. But worrying about it won't change anything. We need to focus on the task. Otherwise, we can't get off this train. Don't you understand? Emma felt tears pricking at her eyes, a mixture of frustration and hurt. But talking about our fears might help us deal with them better, she argued. We're in this together, Corey. We're supposed to be a team. Her brother's face softened for a moment, a flicker of the old Corey shining through. But then his expression hardened once more, his jaw set in determination. We are a team, Em, but right now we need action, not talk. We need to be prepared for whatever comes next. As if in response to his words, the train gave a sudden lurch, the landscape outside the window blurring into an indistinguishable smear of colors. The clock on the wall of their compartment began to spin wildly, its hands whirling like the blades of a fan. Emma gasped, reaching out to steady herself against the wall. Corey, look! They watched in stunned silence as the clock's hands slowed, then sped up again, moving in a chaotic dance that denied all logic. Time itself seemed to be unraveling around them, the very fabric of reality stretching and warping like a funhouse mirror. Corey's face paled, his earlier bravado crumbling in the face of this inexplicable phenomenon. This isn't right, he muttered more to himself than to Emma. Another temporal storm? I can't figure out our remaining time if time itself isn't consistent. Emma felt a chill run down her spine. What does this mean for us, for our tasks? Before Corey could answer, a sound caught their attention, a soft, mournful melody drifting through the air. It seemed to be coming from somewhere deeper within the train, a haunting tune that tugged at their hearts and stirred memories of home. Pixie's ears perked up, her head tilting in curiosity. She looked at Emma and Corey, then at the compartment door. We should go check it out, she suggested. The siblings hesitated for a moment, their earlier argument momentarily forgotten in the face of this new mystery. The Christmas Express, it seemed, had more secrets to reveal, secrets that could either help them complete their mission or lead them further into the unknown depth of this magical journey. As they hesitated, trying to work out their best choice, the train whistle blew, a long, mournful sound that seemed to echo the turmoil in their hearts. Whatever lay ahead, Emma and Corey knew that their greatest challenge was yet to come. The mounting tensions on the Christmas Express were just the beginning of a trial that would test not only their courage and determination, but the very bond between them. With a shared nod of silent understanding, they reached for the compartment door, ready to face whatever awaited them in the mysterious depth of the train. As Corey's hand grasped the handle, they both took a deep breath, steeling themselves for what lay ahead. The door swung open, revealing a corridor that seemed to stretch endlessly in both directions, flickering with shadows and possibilities. Their journey, it seemed, was far from over. Emma and Corey stepped into the corridor, Pixie trotting faithfully at their heels. The soft melody that had lured them from their compartment grew stronger, weaving through the air like a silken thread. It tugged at their hearts, stirring memories of Christmases past, The scent of pine and cinnamon, the warmth of family gathered around a twinkling tree, the excitement of presents yet to be opened. "Do you hear that?" Emma whispered, almost holding her breath to catch every note. Corey nodded, his brow furrowed in concentration. "It sounds like home," he said softly, a note of longing in his voice that made Emma's heart ache. As they moved down the corridor, the walls seemed to shift and shimmer like heat slowly rising. Doors appeared and disappeared at random, each one unique, some ornate and grand, others simple and unassuming. Emma reached out to touch one, a beautiful door of deep mahogany with an intricate snowflake pattern carved into its surface, but her hand passed right through it as if it were made of mist. "What is this place?" she gasped, snatching her hand back. Corey's eyes started from door to door, his analytical mind struggling to make sense of the impossible scene before them. I think the train is showing us possibilities," he said slowly. "Different times, different places, maybe even different outcomes." Pixie now pressed close to Emma's side and did not speak. The little dog's unease was palpable, a reflection of the tension that crackled in the air like static electricity. As they continued down the corridor, following the haunting melody, the siblings found themselves falling into step with each other, their earlier argument fading into the background. But the silence between them was heavy, laden with unspoken fears and doubts. Suddenly a door to their right swung open, releasing a gust of wind that smelt of pine needles and wood smoke. Emma and Corey peered inside, their eyes widening at the scene before them. It was their living room back home, decorated for Christmas. The tree stood in the corner, its lights twinkling merrily, but the room was empty, save for their mother, who sat on the couch with her head in her hands. Even from a distance, they could see her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. "Mom!" Emma cried out, instinctively stepping forward, but Corey held her back. "Wait," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I don't think we can interact with this scene. It's like a window into another time back home." As they watched, Matthew slowly came into the room. He sat next to their mother, his hand patting her back in an effort at comfort. Their mother looked up, wiping her eyes as she forced a brave smile. "They'll be home soon," she said, but the tremor in her voice betrayed her uncertainty. The door swung shut as suddenly as it had opened, leaving Emma and Corey staring at a blank wall, the image of their grieving mother burned into their minds. Emma turned to Corey, tears streaming down her face. "We need to find a way to let them know we're okay," she pleaded. "We have to tell them we're coming back." Corey's face was a mask of conflicting emotions, determination warring with doubt, the need for action clashing with the weight of their responsibility. "How, Emma?" he asked, his voice strained. "We're on a magical train traveling through time and space. It's not like we can just send a text." "But there has to be a way," Emma insisted, her voice rising. "We can't just leave them wondering, worrying. What if we never make it back?" The words hung in the air between them. giving voice to the fear that had been gnawing at their hearts since the beginning of their journey. Corey's expression hardened, his jaws set in a determined line. "We will make it back," he said firmly. "We have to. But first, we need to complete our final tasks. That's the only way to ensure we can go home." Emma felt a flash of anger, hot and sudden. "How can you be so cold?" she demanded. "Don't you care about what Mom and Matthew are going through?" "Of course I care," Corey shouted, his composure finally cracking. "But caring isn't enough. We have a job to do, Emma. The ghosts, the time capsule, all of it. It has to mean something. If we don't see this through, then what was the point of any of it?" Their voices echoed in the strange shifting corridor, the sound of their argument drowning out the mysterious melody that had led them there. Pixie barked and jumped against their knees as she looked between the feuding siblings. For once, the intelligent little Papillon had no solution to offer to them. Suddenly the train gave a violent lurch, sending Emma and Corey stumbling. The walls of the corridor began to warp and twist, doors appearing and disappearing at a dizzying rate. The floor beneath their feet seemed to tilt and sway as if the train itself was reacting to their emotional turmoil. "What's happening?" Emma cried out, reaching for Corey's hand instinctively. Corey gripped her hand tightly, his earlier anger forgotten in the face of this new danger. "I don't know," he admitted, his voice tight with fear. "But I think the train is responding to us, to our fighting." As if to confirm his words, the corridor began to stretch and elongate, the distance between them and their compartment growing with each passing second. The mysterious melody that had led them there turned discordant, a cacophony of clashing notes that set their teeth on edge. "We have to go back," Corey said urgently, tugging on Emma's hand. "We need to get back to our compartment before—" But his words were cut off as a new door materialized directly in front of them, its surface rippling like water. Before they could react, the door swung open, revealing a swirling vortex of light and shadow. Emma, Corey, and Pixie found themselves being pulled toward the open door, powerless to resist the force that tugged at them. As they teetered on the threshold of the unknown, Emma turned to her brother, fear and regret shining in her eyes. "Corey, I'm sorry," she began, but the rest of her words were lost as they tumbled through the doorway, tumbling, plunging into a whirlwind of light and sound. The last thing they heard before the door slammed shut behind them was the mournful wail of the train's whistle, bidding them farewell as they fell into the unknown depth of time and space. The world spun in a dizzying kaleidoscope of colors and shapes as Emma, Corey, and Pixie tumbled through the vortex. Time seemed to lose all meaning. They could have been falling for seconds or centuries. Emma clung tightly to Corey's hand, her knuckles white with the effort, while Pixie's fur brushed against her legs, a comforting presence in the chaos. Suddenly, as abruptly as it had begun, the falling sensation ceased. The siblings found themselves standing on solid ground, blinking in the sudden stillness. As their vision cleared, They gasped in unison at the sight before them. They stood in a vast circular room with walls that seemed to be made of pure light. Countless screens floated in the air around them, each one showing a different scene, some familiar, others utterly alien. In the center of the room stood a towering hourglass, its sand glowing with an otherworldly blue light as it floated in defiance of gravity, moving both up and down simultaneously. "Where are we?" Emma whispered, her voice filled with awe and a touch of fear. Corey shook his head, for once at a loss for words. His scientific mind struggled to comprehend the impossible scene before them. "I think we're in some kind of control room," he finally managed, "but not like any control room I've ever seen or read about." Pixie sniffed the air cautiously, her tail wagging slowly as if she sensed no immediate danger, but remained alert. As they took in their surroundings, a gentle voice spoke, seeming to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "Welcome, young travelers, to the heart of time." Emma and Corey spun around, searching for the source of the voice, but saw no one. "Who are you?" Corey called out, trying to keep the tremor out of his voice. The voice chuckled softly, a sound like tinkling bells. "I am the spirit of the Christmas Express, the guardian of this realm between realms. And you, dear children, are at a crossroads, not just in your journey, but in time itself." As the spirit spoke, one of the floating screens expanded, showing Emma and Corey their argument in the train corridor. They watched, faces flushed with embarrassment and regret, as their past selves shouted at each other, their words full of fear and frustration. "Your conflict has created a disturbance in the flow of time," the spirit explained gently. "Your mission is too important to be jeopardized by discord. You must learn to work together, to balance action with reflection, courage with caution." Emma stepped forward, her eyes shining and bright. "I want to, but how? Everything is happening so fast, and there's so much at stake. What if we fail? What if we can't get home?" The spirit's voice softened, filled with compassion. "My dear Emma, don't you see? It is precisely because so much is at stake that you must find harmony. Your strength lies not in your individual abilities, but in your bond as siblings, as partners in this grand adventure." Corey's brow furrowed as he processed the spirit's words. "But what about the ghosts we still need to help? And the time capsule? How can we be sure we're doing the right thing?" In response, the giant hourglass in the center of the room began to spin, its glowing sand forming intricate patterns in the air. Images flashed across its surface, the ghostly figures they had helped, the lessons they had learned, the changes they had set in motion across time and space. "Every action you have taken, every ghost you have helped, has sent ripples through the fabric of time," the spirit explained. "You are not just changing individual lives, but shaping the very course of history. Your compassion, your courage, your willingness to learn and grow, these are the tools that will ultimately see you through. As they watched, the images in the hourglass shifted, showing scenes of a future bright with promise, a world where the environment was protected, where people from all walks of life worked together in harmony, where the spirit of Christmas lived on in acts of kindness and generosity throughout the year. This is the future you are fighting for, the Spirit said. But to achieve it, you must first overcome the obstacles within yourselves. Emma and Corey turned to each other, the weight of their responsibility settling over them like a mantle. In that moment, they saw each other not as the source of their frustration, but as their greatest allies in this extraordinary journey. I'm sorry, Corey, Emma said softly, reaching out to take her brother's hand. I've been so focused on myself that I didn't consider how you were feeling. Corey squeezed her hand, a rueful smile on his face. And I'm sorry too, Em. I thought if I just focused on our task, I could ignore how scared I was. But we're in this together, and we need to face our fears together too. As the siblings embraced, Pixie barked happily, her tail wagging with renewed energy. The screens around them glowed brighter, and the sand in the hourglass flowed more smoothly. The spirit's voice rang out once more, filled with warmth and approval. Well done, young ones. You have taken the first step toward true understanding, but your journey is far from over. Are you ready to face what lies ahead together? Emma and Corey looked at each other, then at Pixie, who gazed up at them with unwavering loyalty. As one, they turned to face the myriad screens showing the path that lay before them. We're ready, they said in unison, their voices strong and clear. The spirit seemed to smile, though no face was visible. Then let the next phase of your journey begin. Remember what you have learned here in the heart of time, for it will serve you well in the challenges to come. The room around them began to fade, the screens and the great hourglass dissolving into mist. Emma, Corey, and Pixie found themselves enveloped in a warm, golden light. As they felt themselves being gently pulled back toward the Christmas Express, the Spirit's final words echoed in their minds. Trust in each other, trust in yourselves, and trust in the magic of Christmas. For in that magic lies the power to change the world. With a flash of light and a sensation of falling upwards, Emma and Corey found themselves back in their compartment of the Christmas Express. The train whistle blew, a sound now full of promise and adventure rather than mournful warning. As they settled back into their seats, Pixie curled up contentedly at their feet. They knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The Christmas Express continued its journey through time and space, carrying its passengers toward a future bright with possibility. And as Emma and Corey gazed out the window at the ever-changing landscape, they felt a renewed sense of purpose and a deeper understanding of the true meaning of their magical Christmas adventure. The pressure mounts as our journey approaches its climax. Tomorrow brings new urgency to their mission. Check out all of the other books in the Magical Papillon series of cozy mysteries on Amazon now.